1 second, you feel safe. And then,
The police are on their way.
well, you still do.
The notification sound from Jade's phone cut through the midnight silence like a blade. I wasn't supposed to be awake, wasn't supposed to hear it, and definitely wasn't supposed to see her face light up with that particular smile, the one she used to give me. My name is Nate Branter, and I'm a software engineer who thought he knew his wife. 38 years old, decent salary, quiet life in suburban Cleveland, the kind of guy who fixes computers and minds his own business, or at least I was until tonight. "Who's texting you at midnight?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. Jade glanced up from her phone, that guilty flush already creeping up her neck. "Oh, just Hazel. Girl drama. You know how it is?" But I'd caught a glimpse of the name on her screen before she turned it away. Eli, not Hazel. Eli Trevin, Hazel's husband. "Right," I said, settling back against my pillow. "Girl drama." She disappeared into the bathroom with her phone, and I heard the soft tap-tap-tap of her typing. My mind started racing, connecting dots I'd been ignoring for weeks. The late meetings that never showed up on her work calendar, the new underwear I'd never seen, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner. When she came back to bed, I pretended to be asleep. She slipped under the covers, and within minutes, her breathing evened out. But my eyes stayed wide open, staring at the ceiling. I'm not the kind of guy who goes through his wife's phone. Or I wasn't, until tonight. But something about that smile, that flush, that obvious lie, it flipped a switch in my brain that I didn't even know existed. At 3 a.m, I carefully lifted her phone from the nightstand. No passcode. She'd never bothered with one around me. Such trust. Such beautiful, naive trust. The messages with Eli went back 3 months. 3 months of "can't wait to see you" and "when can we be alone," and detailed descriptions of things I won't repeat here. But the most recent exchange made my hands shake. Eli: "Same place as last week? The Riverside Motel?" Jade: "Perfect. Room 237. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Can't wait for our midnight fun." I screenshotted everything. Every single message. Then I did something that would change everything. I forwarded Jade's location and the most incriminating messages to Hazel. "Thought you should know what your husband and my wife are up to," I typed. "It's pretty clear what they're doing." I hit send before I could change my mind. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Hazel: oh my God, I'm going there right now." Then another buzz. "Thank you for telling me. We need to talk." I set the phone aside and lay back down, staring at my sleeping wife. She looked peaceful, innocent. In about 30 minutes, that was going to change forever. The funny thing about betrayal is how it sharpens your memory. Suddenly, I could recall every suspicious moment from the past 3 months with perfect clarity. The night she came home with her shirt buttoned wrong. The weekend she claimed to be at a work retreat that I later learned never happened. The way she'd started showering immediately after coming home from her girls' nights out. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jade. "How did you figure it out? Does this mean we're over?" I stared at the message for a long time. She wasn't even trying to deny it. No explanations, no apologies. Just straight to the practical questions. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I didn't respond. Instead, I got up and walked to my home office, the spare bedroom I'd converted into my workspace. If Jade wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong opponent. I might be quiet, I might be the kind of guy people underestimate, but I'm also the kind of guy who built a career out of solving complex problems. And my wife had just become a very complex problem. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not a response to her. She could wait. I was making lists, assets, accounts, social connections, vulnerabilities. If this was war, I was going to fight it like an engineer, methodically, systematically, and with overwhelming preparation. The first list was titled, "What Jade Values Most." Her reputation topped it, followed by her social media presence, her position at the marketing firm, and her carefully curated image as the perfect wife and friend. The second list was pressure points. Eli's marriage to Hazel, Jade's boss, who had no idea his star employee was conducting personal business on company time, the tight-knit social circle that would turn on her the moment they smelled scandal. The third list was simply titled Evidence, screenshots, timestamps, credit card records I had access to as her spouse, hotel receipts, restaurant charges that didn't match her claimed whereabouts. By dawn, I had a plan. Jade found me in the kitchen making coffee, acting like nothing had happened. She looked terrible, Probably hadn't slept after Hazel's inevitable confrontation at the motel. "We need to talk," she said. "Do we?" I handed her a cup of coffee, noting how her hand shook slightly as she took it. "I thought your midnight text said everything that needed saying." Her face went pale. "You saw that?" "I saw a lot of things, Jade. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" She set down the coffee cup and tried to take my hand. I pulled away. "It was a mistake," she said. "A stupid, stupid mistake. It meant nothing." 3 months of mistakes, I said calmly. "That's quite a pattern." "How do you—" She stopped herself, realizing she was about to confess to more than I'd already discovered. "I'm a software engineer, Jade. I solve puzzles for a living, and you left a lot of pieces lying around." She started crying then, the kind of theatrical tears she used when she wanted something. But I'd seen her real tears before. The night her father passed, the day she got promoted at work. These weren't those tears. "What do you want?" she asked. It was the wrong question. She should have asked what she could do to fix this, how she could make amends, whether our marriage could survive. Instead, she was already negotiating. "I want you to understand something," I said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "You wanted excitement, you wanted adventure, you wanted to feel alive again. Well, congratulations. You're about to feel more alive than you've ever felt in your life." "What does that mean?" I smiled, the same kind of smile she'd given her phone at midnight. "It means the game is just getting started." My phone buzzed with a text from Hazel. "Can we meet today? I have stories about Jade you wouldn't believe, and I think we can help each other." I showed Jade the message. The color drained from her face completely. "Hazel's your friend," I said conversationally. "Was your friend. I imagine she has some very interesting perspectives on your character right about now." I can't what? Talk to people? Share information? Defend myself against someone who's been lying to me for 3 months?" I shook my head. "You should have thought about what I could and couldn't do before you decided to have your midnight fun." I finished my coffee and headed for the door. "I'm meeting Derek for lunch, then I have some errands to run. Don't wait up." "Nate, please." But I was already gone, leaving her standing in our kitchen with her tears and her regrets and the dawning realization that her quiet, predictable husband might not be as easy to handle as she'd assumed. The war had begun, and she'd just discovered she'd brought a knife to a gunfight. Derek Martinez had been my friend since college, back when we were both computer science majors with more ambition than sense. Now he was a private investigator who specialized in corporate fraud, but his background as a police detective made him the perfect person to call when your life imploded. "So she's been cheating for 3 months, Derek said, cutting into his sandwich. We were at Murphy's Deli, a place where the noise level made private conversations possible. "And you forwarded her location to the other guy's wife." "Seemed like the right thing to do," I said. Derek laughed. "The right thing to do. Jesus, Nate, you've got a mean streak I never knew about." "I'm discovering all sorts of things about myself lately." "What's your next move?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the message from Hazel. "Intelligence gathering. Know your enemy and know yourself, right?" "Sun Tzu. I'm impressed." Derek leaned forward. "But be careful. When marriages explode, the shrapnel hits everyone. You sure you want to go down this road?" She made that choice for me when she decided to have her midnight fun. "Fair enough. What do you need from me?" "Legal advice. What can I do? What can't I do? And how do I protect myself if this gets ugly?" Derek pulled out a notebook. Old school, no digital trail. First rule, document everything. Every conversation, every interaction, every piece of evidence. Second rule, don't do anything illegal. You're smart enough to destroy her without breaking any laws. Third rule, have an exit strategy. Decide what you want the endgame to look like, because once you start this kind of war, it's hard to stop. I thought about that. What did I want? A month ago, I would have said I wanted my wife back. Now, looking at Derek's serious expression, I realized that ship had sailed the moment she typed "midnight fun" to another man. "I want her to understand consequences," I said finally. She thought she could have her cake and eat it too. I want her to learn that actions have prices. "Revenge, then. Justice." Derek made a note. "Okay, justice it is. But remember, the best revenge is usually just living well. You sure you don't want to just file for divorce and move on?" After 3 months of lies? After she asked me what I wanted instead of how she could fix this? I shook my head. She wanted excitement. I'm going to give her more excitement than she can handle. My phone buzzed. "Hazel. Can we meet at Starbucks on 5th Street? 1 hour?" I showed Derek the message. He whistled low. "The other woman's wife wants to team up. This is either the best idea you've ever had, or the worst. Only one way to find out. I arrived at Starbucks 15 minutes early and claimed a corner table where I could watch the door. Hazel walked in exactly on time, and I barely recognized her. The polished, put-together woman I'd known as Jade's best friend looked like she'd aged 5 years overnight. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her hands shook as she ordered her coffee. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Thank you for the wake-up call. I probably would have figured it out eventually, but you saved me some time." Hazel laughed bitterly. "Time. Yeah, that's something I wish I could get back. Do you know how long this has been going on?" 3 months, based on the messages I saw. Try 6. I found hotel receipts going back to January, but I convinced myself they were for work trips. She pulled out her own phone. "Want to see what your wife really thinks of you?" She scrolled through a series of screenshots, messages between Jade and Eli that made my stomach turn. Not because of the physical details, but because of how casually they mocked their spouses. Jade, "Nate's so clueless. I could probably bring you home for dinner and he wouldn't notice." Eli, "Hazel's the same way, too trusting for her own good." Jade, "Sometimes I feel bad, but then I remember how boring they both are." I read through them all, my expression carefully neutral. Inside, something cold and calculating was taking shape. "She thinks I'm boring," I said. "They both do. They think we're these pathetic, predictable people who deserve what we get." Hazel leaned forward. "But here's what they don't know about me. I'm not nearly as nice as they think I am." "What do you mean?" Hazel's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "I mean, I know things about your wife that would make your hair curl. We've been friends for 8 years, Nate. She's told me secrets she's never told anyone else." "Such as?" "Such as the fact that she's been skimming money from your joint accounts for 2 years, hiding it in a private savings account you don't know about. Such as the fact that she's been lying about working late. She's actually been going to bars, picking up guys, testing the waters. Eli isn't her first affair, just her most serious one." The information hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression steady. "How do you know all this?" "Because I helped her set up the account, because I covered for her when she needed alibis, because I thought I was being a good friend, helping her have a little fun and excitement." Hazel's voice turned bitter. "Turns out I was just enabling her to destroy 2 marriages instead of 1. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm done being the supportive friend, because I want them both to pay for what they've done, and because I think you're smart enough to make that happen without anyone getting arrested." I studied her face. The grief was real, but so was the anger underneath it. Hazel Trevon was a woman scorned, and she was offering to be my secret weapon. "What are you proposing?" "Partnership. I have information, you have technical skills. Together we can give them the excitement they've been looking for." "What kind of information?" Hazel pulled out a folder. She'd come prepared. "Jade's been having an emotional affair with her boss for the past year. Nothing physical, but lots of inappropriate messages and meetings. She's also been using company resources for personal projects, including planning her dates with Eli, and she's been talking trash about her coworkers to anyone who'll listen, including some very unflattering opinions about the company's biggest clients." "You documented all of this?" "I documented everything. Screenshots, photos, recordings from when she thought she was just venting to her best friend." Hazel's smile turned predatory. "She trusted me completely. That was her first mistake." "What's her second mistake?" "Thinking you're too nice to fight back." I thought about Derek's advice. Document everything. Don't break any laws. Have an exit strategy. "If we do this," I said carefully, "we do it smart. No illegal activity. Nothing that can blow back on us. We use the truth. Just make sure the right people hear it at the right time." "Agreed. But I want them both destroyed, Nate. Socially, professionally, personally. I want them to understand what it feels like to lose everything." "That's a lot of collateral damage." "They earned it." Hazel leaned back in her chair. "The question is, are you ready to be the kind of person who delivers it?" I thought about Jade's theatrical tears that morning, about her asking what I wanted instead of how she could fix things, about 3 months of lies and the casual way she dismissed me as boring and clueless. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." Hazel extended her hand across the table. "Partners?" I shook it. "Partners. But we do this my way. Systematic, methodical, and completely legal." "Fine by me. I want to savor this, not rush it." We spent the next hour planning. Hazel would continue playing the devastated wife while secretly feeding me information. I would use my technical skills to ensure that information reached the right people at the right time. We'd coordinate our efforts to maximize impact while maintaining plausible deniability. One more thing, Hazel said as we prepared to leave. Jade's planning something. She called me this morning, crying, begging me to forgive her and help her win you back. She wants to throw a dinner party next weekend, some kind of reconciliation gesture. What did you tell her? That I needed time to think about it. But Nate, she's not planning to reconcile. She's planning to humiliate you in front of your friends and neighbors. Make you look like the bad guy so she can justify everything she's done. I felt that cold, calculating part of my mind sharpen to a razor's edge. Is that so? No, she wants a show? Let's give her a show she'll never forget. As I drove home, I thought about Derek's question. What did I want the end game to look like? Now I knew. I wanted Jade to experience the same shock, the same betrayal, the same sudden realization that the person she trusted most in the world had been working against her. She wanted excitement. She was about to get more than she bargained for. Jade was waiting for me when I got home, perched on the couch with her laptop open and a stack of papers spread across the coffee table. She'd changed clothes since morning. Gone was the rumpled t-shirt and sweatpants, replaced by the blue dress she knew I liked, and makeup applied with surgical precision. How was lunch with Derek? She asked, closing the laptop with what she probably thought was casual indifference. Enlightening. I hung my keys on the hook by the door and studied her setup. What's all this? I've been thinking about what you said this morning, about consequences in games. She gestured to the papers. I want to show you something. I moved closer, noting how she angled her body to block my view of the laptop screen. The papers were printouts of our financial statements, but several key accounts were missing. I know I messed up, she continued. I know I hurt you, but I want to fix this, Nate. I want to make it right. How? I'm planning a dinner party for next Saturday. Just a few close friends, Derek and Lisa, Tom and Jennifer from next door, maybe Mike and Susan from your work. I want to show everyone that we're solid, that we can work through this. I sat down across from her, careful to keep my expression neutral. You want to show everyone that we're solid by throwing a party a week after I caught you cheating? I want to show everyone that I made a mistake and you were man enough to forgive me. She reached for my hand. Please, Nate, let me do this. Let me prove that our marriage is worth fighting for. It was a masterful performance. The trembling voice, the hopeful eyes, the carefully chosen words designed to make me feel like the villain if I refused. A week ago, it might have worked. What about Eli? What about him? It's over. Completely over. I'll never speak to him again. And Hazel? Something flickered across her face. Too quick to identify, but definitely not guilt. Hazel's processing. She needs time, but I think she'll come around. She's invited to this dinner party? I hope so. I want to apologize to her publicly, show her how sorry I am. I almost laughed. Jade was planning to use Hazel's presence as proof of her remorse, not knowing that Hazel was now my partner in what was shaping up to be the most elaborate revenge plot of my life. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay, we'll have the dinner party. Invite whoever you want. I'll even help with the planning. The relief on her face was so genuine I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Really? You'll help? Of course. If we're going to put on a show, we might as well do it right. She threw her arms around me, and I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume. Not the one I'd bought her for Christmas, not the one she usually wore to work. Something new, something she'd probably worn for Eli. Thank you, she whispered against my ear. I promise I'll make this up to you. I'm sure you will. That evening, I retreated to my home office while Jade made phone calls to potential dinner guests. Through the thin walls, I could hear her voice taking on different tones depending on who she was talking to. Bright and bubbly for the neighbors, professional and slightly vulnerable for my coworkers, warm and apologetic for what I assumed was Hazel. I opened my laptop and started working on the first phase of my plan. If Jade wanted to put on a show, she was going to get one, but I was going to be the director, not the victim. My phone buzzed with a text from Hazel. She called, wants me at the dinner party to show everyone how sorry she is. I said yes. What's the plan? I typed back. She's planning to humiliate me in front of our friends. We're going to flip the script. How? Trust me. Just play your part. Devastated wife who's trying to forgive her best friend. Can you handle that? I was married to a cheater for 6 months without knowing it. I can handle anything. Over the next few days, I watched Jade prepare for her performance. She cleaned the house with manic energy, planned an elaborate menu, and even bought new candles for the dining room. She was excited, genuinely, visibly excited, in a way I hadn't seen in months. She thought she was orchestrating my public humiliation. She had no idea she was walking into her own. On Thursday, Derek stopped by under the pretense of dropping off some files from work. Jade was at the grocery store, giving us privacy to talk. "You sure about this?" he asked, settling into my office chair. "Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "What exactly are you planning?" I showed him the setup I'd been working on, a seemingly innocent slideshow of photos from our marriage, designed to play on the living room TV during dinner. To anyone else, it would look like a sweet gesture, a visual reminder of happier times. "Looks normal," Derek said. "Keep watching." I clicked through to the later slides. Mixed in with legitimate photos were screenshots of Jade's text conversations with Eli, credit card statements showing hotel charges, and GPS data from her phone showing her real locations during her claimed work meetings. "Jesus, Nate, this is nuclear." She wants to show everyone how solid our marriage is. I'm going to show them how solid her lies are. "What about legal ramifications?" "Everything here is legally obtained. I have access to our joint accounts, I'm on her phone plan so I can access location data, and the screenshots came from her own device." I closed the laptop. The only law being broken here is the law of common decency, and she broke that first. Derek was quiet for a long moment. "You know what this is going to do to her?" "I know exactly what it's going to do to her. The question is, does she deserve it? That's not for me to decide. No, it's not. It's for me to decide, and I've decided." Friday evening, Jade was in full preparation mode. She'd taken the day off work to cook, clean, and perfect every detail of what she clearly saw as her comeback performance. "I think this is going to be really good for us," she said, arranging flowers in the centerpiece. "A fresh start." "Absolutely," I agreed, testing the wireless connection to the TV. Nothing like a good show to bring people together. "I was thinking we could do a toast. You know, something about forgiveness and second chances." "Great idea. I'll prepare some remarks." She beamed at me, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd married 8 years ago. The one who used to laugh at my jokes and fall asleep with her head on my shoulder. The one who'd promised to love and honor me through better and worse. Then I remembered the text messages, the casual cruelty of her words about me, the months of lies and the complete absence of genuine remorse. "This is going to be a night to remember," I said. "I hope so. I really hope so." Saturday arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, comfortable temperature, ideal for the kind of dinner party where people linger and really pay attention to what's happening around them. Jade spent the day in a state of barely controlled excitement, changing clothes 3 times before settling on a black dress that was elegant but not too formal. She wanted to look repentant but not defeated, sorry but not pathetic. "How do I look?" she asked, spinning in front of the bedroom mirror. "Like someone with a secret," I said truthfully. She laughed, thinking I was being playful. "Well, the secret is how much I love you and how hard I'm willing to work to save our marriage." "That's definitely a secret worth keeping." The first guests arrived at 7, Tom and Jennifer from next door, a nice couple in their 50s who'd always been friendly but not close. They brought wine and compliments about how good the house looked. Derek and Lisa came next, followed by Mike and Susan from my office. Everyone was polite, making small talk about work and weather while Jade played the perfect hostess. Hazel arrived last, looking appropriately subdued but present. She hugged Jade carefully, like someone who was trying to forgive but hadn't quite managed it yet. "Thank you for coming," Jade said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It means everything to me." "We need to talk later," Hazel replied, which could be interpreted as either reconciliation or confrontation. Dinner was excellent. Jade had outdone herself with the food and presentation. The conversation flowed easily, touching on safe topics like local politics and upcoming vacations. I played the role of the grateful husband, praising Jade's cooking and making jokes that kept everyone relaxed. "This is lovely," Lisa said as Jade served dessert. "You two seem really happy." "We are," Jade said, reaching for my hand. "We've been through some challenges lately, but we're stronger than ever." "Challenges make relationships stronger," Tom agreed. "Jennifer and I have had our ups and downs over the years." "The key is communication," Jennifer added, "being honest with each other, even when it's hard." I saw Hazel hide a smile behind her wine glass. "Absolutely," I said. "Honesty is the foundation of any good marriage." Which reminds me, I put together a little slideshow of photos from our time together, a visual reminder of why we're worth fighting for. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the TV. Just a few minutes of our greatest hits. The slideshow started innocently enough. Wedding photos, vacation pictures, holiday celebrations. Everyone made appropriate, appreciative noises as the images cycled through our 8 years together. "You two look so young," Susan said, pointing at a photo from our honeymoon. "We were young," Jade laughed, "and stupid." "Not stupid," I corrected. Just naive. We thought marriage would be easy. The photos continued chronologically, showing the progression of our relationship. Birthdays, anniversaries, family gatherings. A normal marriage documented in normal ways. Then the timeline reached recent months, and the photos began to change. The first screenshot appeared so quickly that most people probably didn't process what they were seeing. Just a flash of text messages before returning to legitimate photos, but I saw Derek straighten in his chair, and Hazel's eyes sharpened with anticipation. "Wait," Mike said. "Can you go back? I think there was a mistake in the slideshow." "A mistake?" I paused the presentation, the screen now showing a photo of Jade at her company Christmas party. "What kind of mistake?" "I thought I saw... Never mind. Probably just a glitch." "No, let's check." I clicked back a few slides, landing squarely on a screenshot of Jade's text conversation with Eli. The room went silent. "Nate," Jade said, her voice strained. "What is this?" "This? This is honesty, Jade. You said communication was important. I thought everyone should see what our communication actually looks like." I clicked to the next slide. GPS data showing her location at the Riverside Motel while she'd claimed to be at a work meeting. Then another screenshot, this one showing her mocking me and Hazel to Eli. "Turn it off," Jade hissed, but her voice carried in the silence. "Turn it off? But we're just getting to the good part." I clicked again, revealing credit card statements showing hotel charges and restaurant bills that corresponded with her claimed work meetings. Tom cleared his throat uncomfortably. Jennifer was staring at her plate. Mike and Susan exchanged glances that clearly said they wanted to leave, but Derek was watching with professional interest, and Hazel was smiling. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, raising my wine glass, "I'd like to propose a toast to my wife, Jade, who wanted to show everyone how solid our marriage is. Mission accomplished." "Stop," Jade said, standing up so quickly she knocked over her chair. "Stop this right now." "Stop what? I'm just sharing our greatest hits like you wanted. Communication, honesty, all those important marriage values. You're humiliating me." "I'm educating our friends. They came here thinking they were celebrating our reconciliation. Shouldn't they know what they're actually celebrating?" The room was frozen in horrified fascination. This was the kind of scene people would talk about for years, the dinner party where everything went wrong in the most spectacular way possible. Jade looked around the table, seeing the shock and judgment on every face. Her perfect plan was collapsing in real time, and she was finally understanding that she'd been outplayed. "You planned this," she whispered. "I planned this?" "No, Jade, you planned this. I just changed the script." She turned to Hazel, desperation clear in her voice. "Say something. Tell them this isn't what it looks like." Hazel stood slowly, her expression cold. "Actually, it's exactly what it looks like, and there's more where that came from." The betrayal on Jade's face was perfect, the moment she realized her best friend had switched sides. "You," she said, pointing at Hazel. "You did this? You helped him?" "I helped myself," Hazel replied calmly. "Just like you've been helping yourself to my husband for the past 6 months." The room erupted. Tom and Jennifer stood to leave, muttering apologies and excuses. Mike grabbed Susan's hand and headed for the door. Even Derek and Lisa made polite but hasty exits, leaving just me, Jade, and Hazel in the wreckage of the evening. "Satisfied?" Jade asked, tears streaming down her face. "Getting there," I said. "But we're not done yet." The week following the dinner party was a masterclass in social destruction. Word spread through our neighborhood and social circles with the efficiency of a computer virus, each retelling adding new details and speculation. Jade tried to control the narrative, calling friends and neighbors to explain her side of the story. But the evidence from the slideshow was too comprehensive, too damaging. People had seen the screenshots with their own eyes, witnessed her reaction in real time. She stopped going to her usual coffee shop after the barista, someone she'd chatted with for years, gave her a look of pure disgust. The yoga studio where she'd been a regular suddenly had scheduling conflicts when she tried to book her favorite classes. Even the grocery store felt hostile, full of whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by. "This is insane," she said Tuesday evening, pacing around our living room. "People are treating me like I committed a crime." "Adultery is a crime in some states," I pointed out, not looking up from my laptop. "We don't live in one of those states." "No, but we do live in a community where people have opinions about marriage and loyalty." She stopped pacing and stared at me. "You're enjoying this." "I'm experiencing it. There's a difference." I said I was sorry. I ended it with Eli. "What more do you want?" It was the same question she'd asked the morning after I discovered her affair, and it still revealed everything wrong with her thinking. She saw this as a negotiation, a transaction where apologies could purchase forgiveness and forgiveness could restore the status quo. I want you to understand consequences, I said. You spent 3 months lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, mocking me to your lover. Did you think that would just disappear because you said sorry? I thought you loved me enough to forgive me. I thought you loved me enough not to cheat on me. Looks like we were both wrong. My phone buzzed with a text from Hazel. Eli's boss saw the screenshots. He's being transferred to the branch office in Toledo, effective immediately. I showed Jade the message. Her face went pale. They can't do that. It's not illegal to have an affair. It's not illegal, but it's against company policy to use corporate resources for personal business. All those hotel rooms charged to his expense account, all those long lunches that were actually dates. His employer takes a dim view of that kind of thing. How do you know about his expense account? Hazel's been very thorough in her documentation. Turns out when you're married to someone, you have access to all sorts of financial information. Jade sank onto the couch, finally beginning to grasp the scope of what was happening. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. This was about the complete unraveling of the life she'd built. What about my job? She asked quietly. What about it? Are you going to show them the screenshots too? I closed my laptop and looked at her directly. That depends. On what? On how cooperative you are with the divorce proceedings. The word hung in the air between us like a blade. Jade stared at me, processing the finality of it. Divorce? Did you think we were going to work through this? After everything you've done, everything you've said about me? But the dinner party, I thought you were just trying to humiliate me. I thought after that, we'd be even. Even? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jade, you cheated on me for 3 months. You lied to my face every single day. You mocked me to your lover and planned to humiliate me in front of our friends. And you think one embarrassing dinner party makes us even? So what's next? You destroy my career too? That's up to you. Cooperate with the divorce, split our assets fairly, and your professional life stays private. Fight me, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who they're working with. It was blackmail, pure and simple, but it was also justice, using her own actions as leverage to ensure she couldn't continue hurting me through the legal system. You've changed, she said. The man I married would never do this. The woman I married would never have cheated on me. People change, Jade. You just changed first. Thursday brought a new development. I was at work when Derek called with an update. Hazel's filed for divorce, he said, and she's not being subtle about it. She posted on social media about betrayal by the people closest to you and learning to value yourself enough to walk away from toxic relationships. How's that playing out? Like a social media wildfire. She's getting hundreds of supportive comments, people sharing their own stories about infidelity and betrayal. Your wife and Eli are getting dragged through the mud by proxy. I felt a moment of something that might have been sympathy. Then I remembered Jade asking what I wanted instead of how she could fix things. Any word on Eli? Packed up and moved to Toledo over the weekend. Apparently his new position comes with a significant pay cut and no possibility of promotion. His career is effectively over. And Hazel? Hazel's thriving. She's getting job offers from people who admire her strength, invitations to social events from people who want to show their support. Turns out, being the wronged party has its advantages. That evening, I found Jade in our bedroom, packing clothes into a suitcase. Going somewhere? I asked. My sister's place in Columbus. I need some space to think. Good idea. The house will be quieter without you. She paused in her packing. Do you hate me? It was a fair question, and I considered it seriously. Did I hate her? The woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years, who'd laughed at my jokes and held me when my father passed away? No, I said finally. I don't hate you, but I don't trust you, I don't respect you, and I don't want to be married to you anymore. That's worse than hate. Maybe, but it's honest. She finished packing in silence. As she wheeled her suitcase toward the door, she stopped and looked back at me. I really am sorry, you know, about all of it. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught, sorry there were consequences, sorry your plan to humiliate me backfired, but I don't think you're sorry you did it. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I stepped closer, and she actually backed away. Fair would have been you coming to me when you started having feelings for someone else. Fair would have been you asking for a divorce before you started cheating. Fair would have been you taking responsibility instead of trying to make me the villain. I never tried to make you the villain. The dinner party was supposed to be my public humiliation, wasn't it? You were going to play the repentant wife, and I was going to be the unforgiving husband who couldn't let go of the past. Everyone would leave thinking you'd made a mistake, but I was the real problem. Her silence was confirmation enough. The difference between us, I continued, is that when I decided to humiliate you, I used the truth. When you decided to humiliate me, you were going to use lies. She left without another word. Friday afternoon, Hazel called with an update that made my day considerably brighter. Jade's boss wants to meet with her Monday morning, she said. Apparently someone sent him screenshots of her text messages, including the ones where she talks about using company time and resources for personal business. Someone sent him screenshots? I wonder who that could have been. A concerned citizen who believes in corporate accountability. How public-spirited of them. There's more. Remember how Jade's been bad-mouthing her coworkers and clients? Well, it turns out some of those clients have been asking questions about her professionalism. Her boss is not happy. Consequences, I said. It's a beautiful thing. Speaking of consequences, I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. There's a charity gala next Saturday night. Big social event. Everyone who's anyone will be there. Jade bought tickets months ago. She was planning to go with Eli before everything exploded. And I think we should go together. Show the world that we're moving on, that we're not going to hide in shame while they get to slink away quietly. I thought about it. A public appearance with Hazel would send a clear message. We were the victims, but we weren't going to act like victims. We were going to hold our heads high and let everyone see that we'd landed on our feet. What about Jade? Will she be there? Oh, I hope so. I really, really hope so. The anticipation in Hazel's voice told me she had something planned, something that would make the dinner party look like a gentle warm-up. All right, I said, let's go to a gala. Excellent. Wear your best suit, Nate. We're going to put on a show. As I hung up the phone, I realized that somewhere in the past 2 weeks, I'd stopped being the victim of this story. I'd become the protagonist of my own revenge plot, and I was discovering that I had a real talent for it. Jade wanted excitement. The gala was going to be very exciting indeed. The grand ballroom of the Marriott downtown was transformed into something from a fairy tale, all crystal chandeliers and flowing silk drapes. The annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala was the social event of the season, the kind of evening where everyone dressed to impress, and networking happened over champagne and small talk. I arrived with Hazel at 7:30, both of us dressed to make an impression. She wore a stunning red dress that complemented her dark hair, while I'd chosen my best navy suit with a tie that Jade had bought me for our anniversary last year. The irony wasn't lost on me. You clean up well, Hazel said as we walked through the entrance. You're not bad yourself. Ready for this? I've been ready for 2 weeks. The ballroom was already crowded with Cleveland's social elite, business leaders, politicians, prominent lawyers, and doctors. I recognized several faces from the news and society pages, people whose opinions carried weight in our community. We made our entrance slowly, stopping to chat with acquaintances and letting people see us together. The reactions were subtle but unmistakable. Raised eyebrows, whispered conversations, the kind of social radar that picks up on scandal and drama. Nate! Mike from my office appeared at my elbow, looking surprised. I didn't expect to see you here. Why not? It's for a good cause. Of course, it's just, after last weekend, he trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. After last weekend, I decided life goes on, I said easily. Have you met Hazel Trevin? She's been a great friend through all of this. Mike shook Hazel's hand, his expression carefully neutral. Nice to meet you. I'm sorry about your situation. Thank you. It's been a learning experience. We moved through the crowd, making similar conversations with other acquaintances. The message was clear. We weren't hiding, we weren't ashamed, and we were supporting each other through difficult times. At 8:15, I spotted Jade across the room. She was alone, wearing the black dress she'd worn to our dinner party, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by the hunched shoulders and nervous glances of someone who knew they were being watched and judged. Target acquired, Hazel murmured. Let's give her some space. No need to force a confrontation. Who said anything about forcing it? Hazel had that predatory smile again, the one that meant she was 3 steps ahead of everyone else. I was beginning to understand why she and Jade had been such close friends. They were both strategic thinkers who enjoyed complex social games. The difference was that Hazel played to win, while Jade played for attention. We found our table. Hazel had somehow managed to get us seated with some of the city's most prominent couples, people whose opinions shaped social circles and business networks. The conversation was sophisticated and wide-ranging, touching on everything from local politics to international travel. "Such a tragedy about the Morrison divorce," said Elizabeth Chen, the wife of a prominent attorney. 25 years of marriage, and it all fell apart because he couldn't keep it in his pants. "Infidelity is like cancer," agreed Patricia Williams, whose husband owned the city's largest construction company. "Once it starts, it spreads through everything, destroys families, friendships, entire social networks." "The worst part is the lying," added Margaret Foster, a judge's wife. "The betrayal of trust is almost worse than the physical act itself." I caught Hazel's eye across the table. She was enjoying this immensely. "It takes a special kind of selfishness," Hazel said, her voice carrying just far enough to be heard at nearby tables. "To risk everything, your marriage, your family, your reputation, just for a momentary thrill." "And the planning involved," I added. "The deliberate deception, the elaborate lies. It's not a moment of weakness, it's a sustained campaign of betrayal." Several people nodded in agreement. The conversation was ostensibly about the Morrison divorce, but everyone understood we were really talking about our own situations, and they were clearly on our side. During the cocktail hour, I noticed Jade trying to work the room, attempting to rebuild her social standing through charm and careful conversation. But the responses she was getting were polite at best, cold at worst. Word had spread beyond our immediate circle, and her reputation was preceding her. "She's struggling," I observed to Hazel as we watched Jade's awkward interaction with a group of women from her yoga studio. "Good. She should struggle. She should understand what it feels like to be judged and found wanting." "You really don't like her anymore, do you?" "I never really liked her. I just thought I did because she was exciting and confident and everything I thought I wanted to be." Hazel's expression hardened. "Turns out, what I actually wanted was to be someone with integrity and self-respect. Funny how clarity comes with betrayal." The evening's program began at 9, with speeches from hospital administrators and presentations about the charity's work. During the silent auction, I bid on a weekend getaway to Napa Valley. Not because I particularly wanted it, but because it sent a message that I was moving forward with my life. Hazel bid on a spa package and a wine tasting experience. We were publicly demonstrating that we had resources, plans, and futures that didn't involve our cheating spouses. At 10:30, the dancing began. The band was excellent, playing a mix of classic standards and contemporary hits that kept the floor crowded. Hazel was a good dancer, and we moved well together, drawing approving glances from other couples. "You know people are going to start rumors about us," I said as we swayed to a slow song. "Let them. Better to be rumored to be moving on than pitied for being stuck in the past." "Is that what we're doing? Moving on?" She looked up at me, her expression serious. "I don't know what we're doing, Nate, but I know what we're not doing. We're not letting them win." As the song ended, I saw Jade approaching us across the dance floor. She'd been drinking, not enough to be obvious, but enough to give her the courage for whatever she was planning. "Nate," she said, slightly breathless, "can we talk? Privately?" "I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just 5 minutes." Hazel squeezed my arm. "Go ahead. I'll be at the bar." Against my better judgment, I followed Jade to a quieter corner of the ballroom, near the windows overlooking the city. "You look good," she said. "Happy." "I am happy." "With her?" She glanced toward Hazel. "Are you sleeping with her?" "That's not your business anymore." "It is if you were sleeping with her while we were married. It is if this whole revenge plot was just an excuse to be with someone you already wanted." I stared at her, genuinely amazed. "Are you seriously trying to make me the cheater in this scenario?" "I'm trying to understand how you went from loving husband to this." She gestured vaguely. "This cold, calculating person who destroys people for entertainment." "I went from loving husband to this the moment you decided to have your midnight fun with Eli. You created this version of me, Jade. Own it." "I made a mistake." "You made a choice. A series of choices, over 3 months, to lie to me and betray our marriage. And when I found out, your first instinct wasn't to apologize or try to fix things. It was to ask what I wanted, like our marriage was a business transaction." She was quiet for a moment, looking out at the city lights. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, more vulnerable than I'd heard it in months. I was scared. I knew I'd messed up, and I was scared of losing everything. "So you decided to try to humiliate me first, make me look like the bad guy so you could justify what you'd done? That wasn't the plan, wasn't it? The dinner party, the reconciliation narrative, making sure all our friends saw you as the repentant wife and me as the unforgiving husband?" Her silence was answer enough. "The difference between us," I continued, "is that I'm honest about what I'm doing. I'm not pretending this is about love or forgiveness or saving our marriage. This is about consequences. You hurt me, so I'm hurting you back. And when does it end? When I'm satisfied that you understand the price of betrayal. What if I'm already bankrupt? What if there's nothing left to take? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks. She did look diminished, worn down by the social isolation and professional consequences. Part of me felt a flicker of the old sympathy, the protective instinct that had made me love her in the first place. Then I remembered her laughing about how clueless I was, how boring, how easy to deceive. Then maybe you'll think twice before betraying someone who loves you. I walked away, leaving her standing by the windows. When I reached the bar, Hazel was waiting with 2 glasses of champagne. How did it go? She wanted to know when the punishment ends. And what did you tell her? The truth. When I'm satisfied, she understands consequences. Hazel raised her glass. To consequences. To consequences. We drank, and I realized that somewhere in the past month, I'd become someone I didn't entirely recognize. Someone harder, more calculating, less forgiving than the man Jade had married, but also someone who wouldn't be taken advantage of, who wouldn't accept betrayal with a smile and a request for couples therapy. The gala ended at midnight, and Hazel and I were among the last to leave. We'd accomplished our mission, shown the community that we were moving forward, demonstrated that we weren't broken by our spouse's betrayals, and made it clear that we were the victims worth supporting. Thank you, Hazel said as I walked her to her car. For tonight, for everything. I couldn't have gotten through this without you. We make a good team. We do. She hesitated, then leaned up and kissed my cheek. Be careful, Nate. Revenge is intoxicating, but it can consume you if you're not careful. Is that what happened to you? No. What happened to me is I discovered I'm much stronger than I thought I was, and much less forgiving. As I drove home through the empty streets, I thought about Jade's question. When does it end? The honest answer was that I didn't know. I'd started this as a way to make her understand the consequences of her actions, but somewhere along the way, it had become something more. A complete reconstruction of my identity, from victim to victor, and I wasn't sure I was ready to stop being the victor just yet. A Monday morning brought the call I'd been expecting. Jade's voice was shaky, barely controlled. They fired me, she said without preamble. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. This is what you wanted. I was in my office, surrounded by the familiar hum of computers and the quiet conversations of my coworkers. Normal life, continuing as if my world hadn't been turned upside down and rebuilt from scratch. What I wanted was a wife who didn't cheat on me. What I got was a wife who lied for 3 months and then tried to humiliate me in front of our friends. Everything that's happened since then has been your choice. My choice? You sent those screenshots to my boss. You destroyed my career. I sent evidence of your misconduct to someone who had a right to know about it. You destroyed your career the moment you decided to use company time and resources to plan your affair. There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was different, hollow, defeated. I'm broke, Nate. The legal fees, the job loss, having to find a new apartment. I can't afford to fight you in court. Then don't fight me. Sign the divorce papers, accept the settlement Derek proposed, and we can both move on with our lives. The settlement that gives you the house, the savings, and most of our assets? The settlement that reflects the fact that you've been stealing from our joint accounts for 2 years to fund your secret life. You're lucky I'm not pursuing criminal charges for the financial fraud. Another pause. I could almost hear her calculating, trying to find an angle that would give her some leverage. What about Hazel? She asked finally. What about her? Are you in love with her? It was a fair question, and one I'd been asking myself. Hazel and I had grown close over the past month, bonded by shared betrayal and mutual revenge. But was it love, or just the intense connection that comes from surviving trauma together? I don't know, I said honestly, but I know I'm not in love with you anymore. When did that happen? The moment I realized you thought I was too boring and clueless to figure out what you were doing. I never said that. You texted it to Eli multiple times. She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, I'll sign the papers. Good choice. But I want you to know something, Nate. The person you've become, this cold, vengeful person, he's not better than the person you were before. He's just meaner. Maybe, but he's also not a victim. No, he's just someone who creates victims instead of being one. The line went silent. I stared at my phone for a long moment, processing what she'd said. Was she right? Had I become the kind of person who created victims instead of being one? I thought about Eli, exiled to Toledo with a ruined career, About Jade, unemployed and financially devastated. About the social destruction we'd orchestrated, the public humiliation, the systematic dismantling of their lives. Then I thought about the 3 months of lies, the casual cruelty of their text messages, the complete absence of genuine remorse, the dinner party that was supposed to be my public humiliation. No, I wasn't creating victims, I was creating consequences. That evening, Hazel came over to help me pack up Jade's remaining belongings. She'd been putting it off for weeks, but with the divorce papers signed, it was time to close this chapter completely. "How are you feeling?" Hazel asked, folding Jade's clothes into boxes. "Relieved, tired, ready to be done with all of this." "All of this, including me?" I looked up from the jewelry box I was packing. Hazel was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read, hopeful but guarded, like someone preparing for disappointment. "No," I said, "not including you." "Good, because I've gotten used to having you around." We worked in comfortable silence for a while, dismantling the physical remnants of my marriage. It was strange how little of it seemed important now, the decorative items Jade had chosen, the photos from trips that felt like they'd happened to different people, the small accumulations of 8 years together. "Do you think she was right?" I asked as we taped up the last box. "About what?" "About me becoming someone who creates victims instead of being one." Hazel considered the question seriously. "I think you became someone who refuses to be a victim. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. A victim accepts what happens to them and hopes someone else will make it better. You decided to make it better yourself. By destroying 2 people's lives. By holding 2 people accountable for their choices. Nate, they didn't just cheat on us. They mocked us, planned to humiliate us, showed complete contempt for our feelings and our marriages. What did you think was going to happen when that came to light?" She was right, but it didn't entirely ease the nagging feeling that somewhere in this process, I'd lost something essential about myself. The capacity for forgiveness, maybe, or the belief that people could change. "I keep thinking about the man I was 6 weeks ago," I said. "He would be horrified by what I've done." "The man you were 6 weeks ago was being systematically betrayed by someone he trusted. His judgment might not be the most reliable." My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Divorce is final. You're a free man." I showed Hazel the message. She smiled, but there was something sad in her eyes. "Congratulations," she said. "How does it feel?" "Empty. I thought I'd feel triumphant or relieved or something. Instead, I just feel empty." That's normal. Revenge is satisfying in the moment, but it doesn't actually heal anything, it just balances the scales. So what comes next? Next, we figure out who we are when we're not defined by what was done to us. She moved closer, and I could smell her perfume, something light and floral, completely different from Jade's heavier scents. When she looked up at me, I saw not just the partner in revenge she'd been for the past month, but the woman she was underneath all of that. Smart, strong, wounded, but not broken. "Nate?" "Yeah?" "I think I'm falling in love with you." It should have been a moment of triumph, the final victory in my campaign of revenge. The cheating wife replaced by her former best friend, the ultimate proof that I'd landed on my feet. Instead, it felt like the first honest thing anyone had said to me in months. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," I said. She kissed me then, soft and tentative at first, then with growing confidence. It was nothing like kissing Jade. No history, no baggage, no knowledge of betrayal lurking underneath. Just possibility. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "This is going to be complicated," she said. "Everything good is complicated. People are going to say we planned this, that we were having an affair while we were married to them. Let them say it. We know the truth." "Do we?" "Because I have to tell you, Nate, I've been attracted to you for years, long before I knew about Eli and Jade." I pulled back to look at her. "Years?" "Since the first time Jade brought me to one of your dinner parties. You were so different from Eli, so genuine and funny and smart. I used to go home and wonder what it would be like to be married to someone who actually listened when I talked." "Why didn't you ever say anything?" "Because I was married, and so were you, and I believed in honoring those commitments, even when my marriage was making me miserable. And now? Now I'm divorced, you're divorced, and we've spent the last month discovering that we make an excellent team." I thought about that. Was our connection real, or just the product of shared trauma and mutual revenge? Did it matter? We were both free now, both starting over, both looking for something genuine after years of deception. "So what do we do?" I asked. "We take it slow. We figure out who we are as individuals before we try to be a couple. We deal with the gossip and the judgment and the people who think we're terrible human beings. Are we terrible human beings? I don't know. But I know we're honest human beings, which is more than I can say for our former spouses. We finished packing Jade's things and loaded the boxes into Hazel's car. She would drop them off at Jade's new apartment, completing the final severance of our old lives. As I watched her drive away, I realized that for the first time in months, I was looking forward instead of backward. The revenge was complete, the scales were balanced, and the future was unwritten. Jade had wanted excitement, adventure, something more than the boring predictability of marriage to me. She'd gotten it in ways she never could have imagined. And I'd gotten something too, the knowledge that I was capable of more than I'd ever believed, more cunning, more ruthlessness, more strength than the quiet software engineer I'd thought I was. Whether that made me a better person or a worse one remained to be seen, but it definitely made me a more honest one. I walked back into my house now, officially and completely, and began planning the rest of my life. It was going to be very different from the life I'd planned 8 years ago when I married Jade, but different didn't necessarily mean worse. Sometimes it just meant real. The notification sound on my phone made me smile. A text from Hazel. Packages delivered. She wasn't there, but her neighbor took them. It's over. I typed back, no, it's just beginning. And for the first time in months, that felt like a promise instead of a threat.